Hi, my name is Krista Williams, and today I am going to talk about how different social statuses can affect one's health, both mentally and physically. Physical and emotional health is something that all of us as humans have to deal with, whether we're talking about our own health, whether it's good or bad, or if it's family members' health. It's just something that we can't avoid, and it's something that will always be around us. No matter what social class one associates themselves with, health and well-being is always changing and reoccurring in one's life. There are many faces of poverty around the world. A person may distinguish themselves as poor if they cannot afford to pay for the gas in their car, or if they have to wait for their paycheck to come before they can buy more groceries to feed their family. Another person may be considered poor if they're experiencing such extreme malnutrition that they're faced with horrible health problems and essentially starving to death. Although there are many faces of poverty, there are only two types of health. That is, you're either both mentally and physically well, or you're not. Unfortunately, the consequences of poverty are also the causes of it, as stated in the Introduction of Sociology textbook. When someone is born into poverty, it's very hard to escape that specific social class, and it's a vicious cycle that you're being born into. Once born in this low social class, these families experience malnutrition, poor living conditions, and lack of medical attention from the second they are born. And then, when they have babies themselves, the same happens to them. However, there are theories that social scientists have come up with on how this cycle can be interrupted. One theory is the theory of modernization, and the other is the theory of dependency. The modernization theory suggests that if low economic standing country becomes industrialized, they would be able to improve their country and come out of poverty. However, the question that still remains is, where will the country get these resources from that are needed to modernize themselves? The dependency theory states that global inequality is caused by high-income nations exploiting semi-peripheral and peripheral nations, creating a cycle of dependence. It also states that as long as peripheral nations are dependent on countries for economic stimulus, they will never achieve constant and stable economic growth. In order to allow for economic growth in these low-income countries, the high-income countries need to continue to provide just enough for the low-income countries to get on their feet to jumpstart growth and development within their own country. With that being said, when one is considered to be in a low-income country or in a low-class status, health issues tend to arrive and be very prevalent and a constant problem throughout that specific class. Not only are the people that are in low social classes affected by health problems, so are those in high social status classes. For example, in a study completed by Javian and Associates, they noted that health risks related to alcohol are seen in both middle-class and upper-class individuals. Although these people whom are in a high social class have health risks, they aren't related to lack of medical attention like those who are in the low social classes are. Social status does affect the health of both those in high social class as well as those in low social classes. The lifestyles as well as how these groups perceive themselves are the factors that affect the emotional and physical health of these people. There are many studies that have been conducted around the world that have looked at the relation to social class and mental and physical health of these groups and the people who they associated with. In one particular study completed by Young and Associates, both objective and subjective social classes were examined and compared to their health-related quality of life. The results of this study suggested that higher social status is related to higher health-related quality of life, and vice versa. The findings of this study were consistent with the findings of many other studies that also looked at socioeconomic status and health. Many studies have looked into the way socioeconomic status affects health and have found similar results. However, this one particular study looked into education and perceived health and came up with results that'll help other experiments in the future. A study done by Kim and Associates found that individuals with a low level of education were significantly more likely to report low self-rated health as well as low life satisfaction compared to those with a high level of education. Some reasons for these low health assessments could be due to the fact that when in a low social class, having the economic strain and financial insecurity can lead to increased anxiety, thus leading to negative physical health consequences. Also, those with lower finances compare themselves with others and feel insufficient when compared to their peers, once again affecting their health. Also, as mentioned before, the vicious cycle that is so difficult to escape once you are in a low social class can be seen by the results of low education and low health. When a person is already in a low social class, getting a good education is very difficult because it is so expensive. When someone doesn't have the chance to get a higher education, they typically cannot get a good paying job, therefore leaving him or her in a low socioeconomic class. And in turn, when people are unable to afford their education, their health and wellness is decreased, as is those in the low socioeconomic classes. There are many studies out there that have shown that social class and socioeconomic class status are good predictors of both mental and physical health. The lower the education or socioeconomic status of a person, the lower their health is, and vice versa. One study completed by Kahn and Associates wanted to look into the reasons as to why this occurs. They found that there may be psychological reasons as to why this happens. And it was noted that when one perceives their social status as lower, their health is also lower. When one believes that their social status is low, their self-esteem is lowered, affecting their health negatively. Another reason for poor health is the lack of self-control, lack of sense of control that these people in the low social statuses feel. Social class is a huge predictor of the type of health a person will experience. The lower the class, the lower the health. This occurs due to the fact that they cannot receive adequate medical attention, as well as the constant stress that being in poverty puts on them. Those that come from a disadvantaged background tend to have much higher and constant stress, which takes a huge toll on the body, both mentally and physically. In turn, those that come from higher socioeconomic class status don't have to worry about where their next meal will come from, or if they'll be able to afford their bills for the month, and therefore, they do not have the constant stress riding on them. The few theories on how to change and ultimately eliminate the health differences need to be studied more and then acted upon to end this vicious poverty cycle. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you were able to take something from this message and really able to see how detrimental it is to a person's health just by being placed in a specific social class status.